Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Funny Thing Is podcast. I am your host, Nicole Burch, where every week I bring you someone who shares a traumatic event, the medicine they took to get better, and the funniest lesson they learned along the way. Today is no exception. Today I'm joined by my very good friend, talented actress and voiceover artist and writer, Carla Delaney.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Yeah, you hear that buttery voice on the other end? She gets paid for that.
I do.
All right, so let's get into it. What is the one thing that changed your life?
So I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's syndrome, which is where the body attacks your thyroid, which is found in the throat. I use my throat for a living. I use my voice. And this was like, what?
Yeah. I actually am also diagnosed with Hashimoto's ever since I had my daughter. Here's my question. So Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease similar to rheumatoid arthritis, lupus. There's a bunch of them, right?
So fun.
So fun to be a part of that family.
It's a good club.
Why do I feel like we're doing a growling sketch? Okay. So here's my question. I know mine stemmed from delivery, having my daughter and like a traumatic birth, right? Do you know if yours stemmed from something? And when were you diagnosed?
Officially, I think 2015, but I think I was dealing with it at least from 2014. I don't know for how long, but yeah. So officially 2015.
Okay.
And, I was really interested in, for me, I already did yoga. So I was kind of like, I went about it with a mind, body, spirit connection because, the thyroid, it handles your hormones. Right. So when your hormones are out of whack, it makes a lot of sense. This happens to a lot of pregnant women.
Yeah.
Their hormones get out of whack. For me, I was like, what's the mind, body, spirit connection? I wanted to know. I was very fascinated with, I use my voice. In yoga, the fifth chakra is the voice.
Right.
And that's where the thyroid is. And I was like,
why is it damaged?
Yeah. And I just started to notice, whenever I wasn't using my voice and speaking up for myself, how women will do, especially in their 20s. Hi, everything's fine. Yeah. And like, as we get a little older, the voice starts to settle. It starts to lower because you're more grounded in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was really fascinated with that. What's this, for me, I thought, what's that connection? Because it wasn't just a cut and dry, this one thing happened. So it was kind of a peeling of an onion of like, where am I not speaking up for myself?
Yeah. When I don't speak up for myself, I get canker sores. Or sometimes strep if it's really bad, but canker sores.
But strep, the throat.
Yeah.
So, when we're having something emotional, if we stuff down our feelings, sometimes you get a lump in the throat.
Yeah.
Right? And I just thought, God, this is the way we express.
Absolutely.
So if we're not expressing, something's going to happen. Strep throat, canker sores. I mean,
Yeah, and you got Hashimoto's.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
What were your symptoms like when you wanted?
Extreme fatigue. Extreme fatigue. Sometimes cold. I just remember the fatigue was like, what is happening? That was the big kickoff.
Lethargy. Yeah. I had the fatigue. I don't know if you know this, but my body temperature dropped to like, instead of it being like it was normally 97.6.
Yeah.
And I know that because I don't know, I'm just weird with it, but it dropped to 95.9. And so as your body temperature just stays colder.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to affect your metabolism. That usually leads to weight gain. I guess I didn't gain. I gained pregnancy weight, got Hashimoto's. So I just didn't lose that weight the way I normally would have.
Oh, dry skin. I mean, like.
Dry skin, dry eyes.
Yeah.
I still get dry eyes.
Yeah.
And then what's another one? I'm trying to remember. Oh, and then of course, joint pain.
Oh.
Like this is where like fibromyalgia is in this family.
And that's so fun.
Yeah.
Like why am I, a youthful person and I have like something, my hands hurt. Yeah.
After the delivery, it was like maybe a week or two after I was like, oh, I feel like I've been in a car accident. And everybody assumed I meant pelvic area. Right. And I said, no, like my back, my shoulders, my chest, everything felt like when I get up in the morning. And then I wasn't officially diagnosed till 11 months after Everly was born. And in that time period, playing with her on the floor, I looked like an 80-year-old woman trying to get up off the floor.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't understand what's happening. And it's so funny because I've known you for years. We've performed at the Groundlings. We do like sketch comedy together all this time. And you don't drink alcohol.
No, I cut it out because I started to really try to monitor things with diet.
Yeah.
So I was like paleo and got rid of, I was doing like a candida cleanse, which is why I stopped with alcohol.
Right.
And then, you know, I started to really notice how my body was affected by all of that. No, eventually, you know, you can bring that into your life. But yeah, I'm with a bunch of raging comics and I'm like, excuse me, I'll have some hot tea.
Right? So that's what we were doing. Like, I was like, oh, and then I asked you, I was like, wait, so why don't you drink? We even went to Dublin, Ireland to do like an improv thing. And I was like, why aren't you
downing whiskey?
I'm downing whiskey. I'm doing like Smittix and Guinness and everything. And we even went to the Guinness factory and
they bring out a sample and I was like, everybody have some.
I felt bad that you had to pay for that. But it was a good rooftop view. But with that, I was like, why don't you drink? And you never said Hashimoto's, because I honestly, most people are like, what is that? I was like, no, it's not an STD you get from Thailand. I was like, you'd always just go, oh, you know, I just have a sensitive throat, is what you would say, or something like that.
I was, and still am, but especially around when I first was still kind of peeling back the layers of like, what is this? How do I deal with it? I was very sensitive to like, I didn't want to bring, I was like, no, I'm not going to say that's what it is. I'm just going through a thing.
Yeah, I'm not branding. Yeah.
Yes, which is fine-ish, but yeah, I think at that moment I was like, I was a little mercurial about it, but it was really because I was like, oh, I don't want to identify with that.
I still don't.
Yeah.
I mean, like for this podcast, that's great.
Yeah.
But if somebody's like, why are you gluten-free? I'm like, because I'm gluten-free.
Because I live in LA.
Yeah, because I live in LA. It's an option here. Yeah. And by the way, I used to do a 5-minute bit where I made fun of everybody who was gluten-free but not celiac. And I was like, oh, okay, gluten-free. Like I had a whole bit. And then when I went off gluten, I felt better. I did the whole cleanse for 30 days. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I tried to implement back was gluten. And I felt like such garbage. Yeah, I felt like I had carpal tunnel all over my body. Oh my God. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I have to be off gluten, don't I? I was like, oh man, forever. Which is fine. It hasn't that's actually not that hard. I mean, as much as people say. But that was one thing that I found interesting. I think we're both the same way. We're in the sense of we'll try to heal something with diet before we do.
Yeah.
Did you go on medication?
Yes. So thyroid medication. What do you take?
I was taking Armor, but I'm off of it now because I got my numbers in the clear.
Good.
But I still have antibodies. I'm trying to remember what this was. By the way, anybody that has Hashimoto's, my TSH was 96. Do you remember what yours was when it was bad? It's supposed to be under 2. Technically under 4, but should be under 2.
I can't remember.
Mine was 96, and when the doctor saw it, they were like, I mean, I saw somebody had theirs was like 150 or something. Oh but goodness. Even at 34, I did levothyroxine.
Yeah.
I did that one that brought it down to 34, and I still felt like I'd been hit by a truck.
Oh, God.
And it wasn't until I started doing like acupuncture and diet was the big one. No dairy, no gluten was the first 2 to go. And that, because I think
inflammation,
everything, every autoimmune disease is it's all inflammation, and how it manifests is what the disease is.
Right.
I feel like autoimmune is like cancer in the sense of there's not really. So please don't like cut this snippet out and just use that. Hashimoto's is exactly like stage 4. Can you imagine? Oh my God. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying,
and this is why I don't identify with it.
This is why I don't want to label myself. But Hashimoto, it's like, there's a autoimmune disease and there's a bunch of them underneath, and they all have different symptoms and different treatments and different, like the way that there's cancer, but there's breast cancer and colon cancer.
Right.
And so it's like treating each one individually. And then your Hashimoto's is not the same as my Hashimoto's. Right.
We're snowflakes.
Yes, we're all snowflakes.
We have snowflake autoimmune.
Nobody knows how to treat us. It's great.
But are you into the gut biome?
Not as much as you are, because we talked about this one time because something wasn't working and you were like, get tested for candida. And I was cleared on that.
I'm so into it. I feel like in 15, 20 years, everyone's going to be like, every doctor's just going to be like, the stomach.
The stomach, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely believe diet is 100% the reason I'm off medication right now. Mm-hmm. It's not it's literally nothing else. Oh, well, and maybe like because I did acupuncture. I mean, I threw spaghetti at the wall. I threw everything at this thing. And then finally, the diet was the thing.
Yeah,
that
for me
works.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, paleo for life is you're just like carbohydrate, please.
Yeah.
But it works. It does. It's helped a lot. It helps with inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why my mind was like, wait a second. These are connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, wait, what's going on in the body, in the stomach, everything I read was a lot of just like, oh, the gut biome, fermented foods, good bacteria,
Right.
like keep it happy.
So I feel like you're going to tell me you do a lot of extra stuff for your gut biome. So what do you do?
I have just started to, but you have to be kind of careful
I
because
feel like, are you like chronically doing colonics and stuff and enemas? Are you Carla Delaney?
Would you, what if I told you I went through a phase and it feels real good. It feels light and bright and happy. There's nothing wrong. Although you can overdo.
I've always wanted to do a colonic.
I suggest I'll go with you. I'll hold your hand.
Yes. Well, they take the poop out of me. That's like put a
There's
tube
different
in your
kinds.
Oh, okay.
There's a machine called a Libby with an E at the end where it like cycles through. It's not, you don't have to hold all the water. It kind of like cycles through and comes out and you watch it. And I know we're getting real into it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm all about this stuff.
I feel like it does wonders.
Okay. Enemas?
Isn't that the same?
It's the same, right?
I think
it's just like a machine form.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then do you take like a bunch of prebiotics and probiotics and
Yes. So I had to kind of slowly introduce my body to it because some of that's hardcore and the body can be like, oh, wait, that's why sometimes you feel a little weird. You just feel off.
Right.
So you're introducing, especially if it's, from a farmer's market or something, and it's like really been legitimately fermented. You have to kind of slowly implement, but it's good. It's really good to have diverse, just like society. We want a diverse biome. Basically, that's the message. Everywhere we go.
Okay. So did you figure out what you weren't using your voice for? Like what?
Yeah.
What was it?
Okay, so we're in the creative field.
Right.
And I've always been very, very good at showing up. Like I love group situations, writers' rooms where I get to input and it's just a bunch of people collaborating. I'm a great collaborator. Mm-hmm. But at some point, there's a balance, right? And I'm sure you can talk about this, I would imagine too. So you show up and you're all about collaboration, but at some point you have to fight for your ideas, right?
For sure.
And so I think I was so much about collaboration. And yes. Oh, writing is rewriting. Here's the rewrite. Let's do this. Let's tweak. Let's jump. It's like hoop jumping. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know if it's a woman thing or not. But for me, I had to say, okay, wait a second. Where are the places where I need to take a stand and fight for this idea, fight for this thing, say this is, and if there's a disagreement, fine, I'm open to it, but let's have a conversation about it instead of myself going, great, okay, I'll make that change. Great, let me make that change. So I think I was just doing a lot of that. And whether
you lose yourself. Yeah.
Whether this Hashimoto's, I don't know, it's like the chicken and the egg, whether it was directly related to that or whether it was just me using that as a moment to go, wait a second, where am I not speaking up and holding my ground in my life? And that was creatively.
Yeah. I think especially like in our occupation, the first time I even dipped my toe into a writer's room situation, which was like right after we did Groundlings, which is a sketch school in Los Angeles. And after that, I dipped my toe into the writer's room and I was like, I hate this. And I kind of hated our last bit of Groundlings too. So it was like, oh, I feel like none of this is my material. None of this is what I want to write. None of this is what I want to perform. And so it was like, oh, that is a huge awakening. But I also think there's a thin line between collaboration and just throwing your ideas out to make somebody happy. Yeah.
You have to walk it's a fine line because you are making something together and there's a lot of moving parts that make that thing. All the entertainment we see is made by so many minds and hands. I guess in everybody's life, there's that time where you have to kind of, you get to kind of go, oh, wait a second. For me, I need to make this stand. For me, I need to fight for this idea.
I also think this is going to get real deep and spiritual. Ready?
Please bring it.
So like if you needed a wake up call,
Yeah.
the fact that it was your throat chakra, right? That's like huge. That's going to be Carla Delaney's wake up call.
Yeah.
Mine, not necessarily a wake up call, but I remember asking the universe.
Right. I do every day.
Every day. I remember asking the universe because there, when I was pregnant, I said there were certain things I wanted to break, what they call it, like generational trauma or whatever, generational cycles.
Yeah.
So like one was all the women in my family were afraid of swimming, including myself. So I took a bath 3 times a day. I now have a water baby. She loves the water.
Yes.
She'll put her face in it.
You broke that cycle.
I broke that. Come from a long line of cigarette smokers. Don't smoke. I mean, I did dabble in college or whatever, but that's it. So broke that one. And the other one was everybody's kind of a foodie or struggles with weight management. I don't want to necessarily say overeaters so much as like emotional eaters. Mm-hmm. And so I asked the universe, I was like, this one's the big one. And this one's hard for me to manage because I've struggled with it my whole life. Mm-hmm. So I want to show my daughter healthy eating habits where she doesn't learn to emotionally eat. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, if the universe could help me out with that, that would be great. And then I got Hashimoto's, which is now like, you have to watch everything you eat if you don't want to feel like an 85-year-old.
Be careful the way you phrase it. They say like be super specific when you go to Starbucks. Can I say Starbucks?
Yes, you can say
When you go to Starbucks, you put your order and you're very specific. You're not just like, I'll have some kind of coffee. You have to be real specific. Yeah,
it is.
It's true. You now have to be very specific about. So
I was like, I got exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it's great. And like Everly is like, she was the kid that, eats, one of her first solid foods was avocado, and she'd just start eating it out of the husk. She didn't care. She loves avocados. I mean, I still do peanut butter and jellies and some macaroni, but we're not all perfect. So, I just thought that was interesting that this was, if anything was going to be like a shake Carla up, it's going to be something that affects your throat.
Yeah. And actually generationally, I think that is, I also have very much so looked at, I come from, there's 3 altogether siblings, all girls, sisters, my mother, and then my dad. Mm-hmm. He never had a chance.
A lot of estrogen, a lot of estrogen.
But just that kind of, when you have an awareness around something like, your mother says, be a good girl, be a good, that kind of a thing. And just like, I didn't grow up. Brave came after my youth. Yeah. And Frozen. Right. I think I was,
We're still on Cinderella.
Still a genie in a bottle.
Yeah.
And so just kind of looking at generationally, if you have awareness around that, where does this come from? What don't I want to carry with me? Mm-hmm. For you, becoming a mother, obviously you think, well, I don't want to pass this on to a child. But yeah.
Yeah, I have to double back down on that.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's so many things I should probably still clear out of her pantry. My pantry is great, but
like my mother is, I love her so much, but she doesn't like confrontation. So rather than doing that, she'll tell a little white lie. Well, it's like, what? It's a confrontation thing. So. Yeah.
You don't do that though. You love confrontation. Carla Delaney
is I get into it. I have hips that are built for confrontation.
I start bar fights. But I don't drink at them. That's
me.
You. That's you.
Me.
Okay, so what is the medicine that you took to heal?
Combination of things. So got very into yoga, Kundalini yoga. And I know that's a hot topic. People are like, it's crazy. It's a cult. I think take what you like, leave the rest.
I say that with everything.
Yeah. So every treatment, you don't necessarily have to believe every philosophy. I think you just go, again, I had an experience. I did some breathing work in that particular yoga. There's a lot of, did you do Lamaze when you were?
No.
No,
because by the time I started to hear about it, they were like, and sometimes it takes, there was another type of breath work, not Lamaze. There's people that would be, oh gosh, what's it called? There's like 3 different types of main breath work that you can do in your practice. And they're like, but it's going to take like 6 to 8 months to really get used to it. And I was already like 4 months. And I was like, yeah, man, I ain't got nobody got time for that. I was like, we'll see what happens.
So it moves things, like emotions. I mean, it's just moving. There's a reason why.
I've done breath work though. So yes. Yeah.
So that was very, very helpful. That piece of yoga, just that breathing. I mean, it'll lift your mood in a moment. Like we don't breathe. That's what we have, these shallow breaths. That's why the heart rate starts to beat and people get all uptight because we're not breathing.
Right.
And so the breathing I loved, just that very intentional breath work. EFT, which is, it's sometimes called tapping, but EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique.
Okay, I've heard of tapping.
Yeah. So you're just tapping on parts of the body that are acupressure points. I'm not an EFT, a facilitator. So, I don't know if I'm explaining it exactly right, but you're basically just lightly tapping in these areas. And again, have an experience with it. For me, it was very, very helpful. It just works. Narrative storytelling. So I wrote a show, and in every culture, there's storytelling.
What was the show called?
Voices.
How many times did I see it?
Oh my God.
4. I saw it 4 times.
Because you're a good friend.
It's also it was a really good show.
Thank you. It was basically about, I'm a voiceover artist who was finding her own voice, essentially. We naturally are storytellers. And there's something very, very healing in telling stories. What are you doing right now? This podcast, you know? So they say when you get to that point where you're storytelling, you don't want to be going through whatever you're going through, because that can be borderline therapy.
Yes.
But if you have had an experience with it and you can then become a storyteller around it, have a narrative, that's very powerful. And if I may, I have to say there's a woman, she's in LA and Florida, and it's Soaring Solo Studios is her company. And it's just a wonderful, I don't know that she set out to do this kind of work. She works with solo artists in particular, but what she's doing, she'll never call it this, it's for her, it's about showing up and telling a story, but it is deeply healing medicine that's happening.
Absolutely. I think that's why even comedians, even people that do, like we did sketch, or you write a feature, you write a short, or you write anything like that. Even with some guests I've already had on, a lot of the stuff, this is what's funny is about this podcast, because in order to find a guest to come on, it has to be somebody that's willing to share their trauma or their life-changing experience. That's already hard. Somebody that's willing to share the medicine that they took, and then somebody that has found a funny light at the end of it, right? So that's a very niche group. However, I've discovered that if I could find everybody who does a one-woman show or a one-man show, that's kind of my niche, because you're not going to write a one-person show if you're in the thick of it. Or you could write it, nobody should see it. But do you know what I mean?
I definitely know.
So it's kind of like that. If there's somebody out there who has preferably comedic one-person show, that's the niche of this, because you do have to, but people do that because it's cathartic and it's healing and you get your voice out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's amazing because you think you're telling this personal story and people are feeling more human and going, thank you for giving me permission in the audience to just go through that myself or feel that thing. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, your show is so related, and you did a second one called
Worth It. And
both of those are so relatable. Worth It was about money.
Breaking generational taboos around money and holding money and the whole, Yeah.
And it's crazy. Yeah. Both of those were so good. So since you're a voiceover actor, how did that affect your voiceover career? Or did it? Getting Hashimoto's, how did that affect it?
Yeah, so my voice has, because of the medication, it has lowered somewhat. So I do a lot of animation. I can remember. I'm not Bart Simpson, but I have done Bart Simpson for different shows. And so I was like, okay, because a lot of what I do is I do voice matching sometimes. So I'm hired to sound like a celebrity. I'm just going to say what happens in the film world. Usually sound is the last thing that they do in post. So someone, an A-lister has shot an entire film. And then they're editing and they're in post and they find out, oh my God, you know, we were on this plane and we didn't get the right sound. We couldn't hear the person. So they need the star to come in to redo those lines. And many times that person is on to the next gig.
Right.
So they hire people like me to come in and sound alike, sound like those
And also
people.
you had a national commercial, Snickers commercial, where you were Florence Henderson.
Yes, I was Mrs. Brady.
Yes,
that
Mrs.
was
Brady.
amazing.
It
I
was so
loved doing
good.
that.
It's so good. So good.
Danny, I don't know, Trejo.
Danny Trejo was in it,
And so what I do is vocal gymnastics. I started out as a singer, so I figured out all these different places in my face to create sound. When you sing, that's all you're doing. Opera singers, they're just experiencing different places of resonance in their own face and their body.
Right.
And so I was like, how's this going to affect? I need to be, I'm getting paid. I need to be able to access this immediately. And so I was concerned.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So one other thing. What was the medication? Because I said I was on Armour. What are you
I was on Armour at first, and then I went on to a natural. They've switched me a couple times. Now it's something called NP thyroid.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what that stands for.
Yeah.
Nice people thyroid.
It's nice people. It's nice people thyroid.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I'm like trying to think when I was going through it. There's only like 3 or 4 medications.
Synthroid.
Yeah.
What the other
Mine's
one you
like
said?
desiccated pig thyroid.
There you go. Yep.
And it's delicious. No, it did help. And I was vegetarian at the time, so it's ironic. But it was the only thing that helped me. And then but then other autoimmunes like rheumatoid arthritis, I found out has there's like 40 medications.
Oh my God.
And it's just trial and error. And I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
at least that would drive me nuts. Yeah. I don't think I could do that. Okay, so that's the medication. Were you able to solve that? Like being able to do, because you're still a successful voiceover artist.
Yes. So the diet really helped. Now there's something about when I talked about tapping EFT, I went to someone who dealt specifically with autoimmune issues. Oh. And she was like, I want you to do a thing. And you're going to feel real like woo-woo.
Yes,
but
give it to me.
It was just at night or in the morning, you just like touch every part of you and say, I love you. I love you. I love you. I know.
I love it. I'll do it.
Who has time all day to do that? But she was finding with people who did that their numbers were going down, that their blood work was coming back. And I was like,
it's like singing to a plant and the plant grows faster.
Yeah,
come on, I believe this stuff.
Even though we're not I'm not sitting around actively saying, beating myself up. But how many times do you think something? How many times, do you just, you might not say, I don't like you, but to yourself. But if you're not speaking your truth, if you're not standing up for yourself, that is kind of like saying, you're invalidating your own self in your mind, in your words, in your interactions with people. So there's something to it.
Okay, so since you do voiceover, before we get to the next part, the last part of the show,
where we take off our clothes,
and we do kumbaya. And
yes.
Okay, so we'll tell a story. We were in Dublin, and this does tie into her voice. So we were in Dublin, and there were a lot of good-looking guys, but none of them were hitting on us. And I was like, what is happening? They're like, oh, yeah, guys don't do that here. It was very weird. They're like, we asked one of the guys that we were hanging out with who's from Dublin. We were like, well, how'd you meet your wife? And he goes, yeah, the way you always do. We're the last 2 at a party. And I'm like, that's what?
What?
That's so weird, because I was thinking like rough and tough Irish guy would come sweep me off my feet. So we're at a party. Now, at this point, we'd been there for like 5 days. Everybody knows that Carla is this savant when it comes to voiceover artistry. But there's this really good looking guy. I think his name was Paul. I think I remember it.
Oh, you remember?
I do remember, because it's a triggering memory for me. And so
do you want to tap it out?
Do you want to tap it out and get it out of here, Paul? And he's kind of giving me the eye. And we've seen him for a few days, and he's whispering to his friends.
He was the one good-looking one.
Like, in that group, he was the one good-looking one.
Like over 6 foot, just some,
Yeah, burly. So he comes over, and he's got a smile, and he says, hi, and Paul. And I was like, hi. And we're like talking and flirting. I'm like, oh my God, this is happening. And he goes, I hear that you do some voices. Do you do the Simpsons? And I was like, you've got to fucking be kidding me, man. I was like, no, that's her. And I was like, Carla, get over here and do your fucking voices.
I just remember you saying, your voices cock blocked me in Ireland. Well, they were obsessed. I think in Ireland, McFarlane, they were, he was like there. That was the whole.
Okay, so do you remember what mine, don't say it, but do you remember what my favorite one is?
I do.
Okay, so save that one for last. Okay, but will you do, so do Bart Simpson?
Ay, caramba, man. Na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, Bart, man. Don't have a cow, man.
Okay. Oh, this is another thing that's kind of interesting. So I've been doing this long enough that, when Nancy Cartwright started,
Ay, caramba.
she was like, she had this youthful voice. Again, women's voices tend to drop. So now it's like,
Ay, caramba, man.
So as these people age, I have to modify these voices too.
Oh, to match them?
Yeah.
I do not have that gift. It is such a specific gift that it's like I wouldn't even, I audibly can.
Bart, I'm wailing out for the homeless family living outside the Quickie Mart. Now, Lisa, Bart just wants to play.
Okay, now you have to do my favorite, which is Milhauser.
Nicole, don't air my drama.
I'm just saying this right now. Like, if you're only audibly listening to this, you are missing out, because the reason it's one of my favorite ones, not only is it like pitch perfect, it sounds exactly like Milhauser.
Milhouse.
I said Hauser.
Did
I say Hauser?
You said
oh my God.
Budweiser and Milhouse together.
Milhouse. The reason it's my favorite is because she shakes and she gets into it so much, and her face is like, I'm like, that's.
Well, I love it when, the highest emotion is like sometimes so easy to grab onto.
Yeah.
So
but
I
like,
love his angst.
But it's also like the voiceover, like the people in the booth, you guys, everything is so animated, and people don't know that. They think you're just back here like doing your best work this close to camera, not even moving. It's like, no, you guys are jumping around.
Oh, that's the weirdest thing too, because I do on camera and voice. So when you're doing voiceover, especially animation, you're sweating. If you're not sweating, you're not doing your job. So, it is so physical. And on camera, you're like, rope it in. Everything's like, smaller, Carla.
It's smaller.
We need you to be smaller, Carla. And it's just like, you have to kind of get that through your head. Yeah.
Yeah, Milhouse is my favorite. In fact, I think we were there and I had you do a birthday video for my friend Craig. My friend, he's my kid's dad.
Baby
we
daddy.
did, yeah, baby daddy. But you did one for him and he was like, what the hell? I was like, dude, yeah, she's so good. Can you do Dolly Parton?
I tumble out of bed.
Oh, again, so when I started doing Dolly,
This here's Dolly Parton. How y'all doing? Dolly, yeah. How y'all doing?
and now she's aged, so it's like,
This here's Dolly Parton. I tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition, yawn and stretch and try to come to life. Working 9 to 5.
that's what you doing.
Dude, that's amazing. And that one I could really tell the difference in age.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Now, you got to kind of give it that rasp and that sort of slower voice. And, when she was young, she was real kind of high and up here.
And yeah.
I'm obsessed with you, dude. Jesus Christ. Okay. What's the other one?
Oh, I like
Drew Barrymore?
She's everybody has a good Drew. Sofia Vergara. I love
Oh,
her too.
do Sophia.
Hola, this is Sofia Vergara. Nicole, why you have me on my show? Do you like my giant?
She's shimmying right now. She's shimmying.
When you do Sofia Vergara, you got to have, you got to do the shimmy. Oh, yeah, I love her.
Girl, okay, can I tell what you and your husband, because your husband is also a very talented.
You want to talk savant.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. And also his Instagram's fucking crazy. Jeff Bergman. He's a great voiceover artist. And for my birthday, one year he came in and sang me happy birthday as Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Where he insulted me the whole time, which was lovely.
Yep.
And then for the next birthday, I said, I want to audibly hear a sex tape between Sofia Vergara and Fred Flintstone, because he's the voice of Fred Flintstone.
That was weird, by the way. A weird request that we honored.
And you honored it, and it is still in my phone to this day, and I love it so much. It's my favorite
I was
thing.
like, Fred, pull my hair, Fred. Do it now, Fred, pull my hair. It's like only for you, Nicole.
If I can find that clip, I'll try to put it in on this, because it's so golden. It's so great. Was there another one? No.
Well, there's a lot in the bit. So, Drew, I have, Drew's getting emancipated from both her children, edamame and hibiscus, this year. She's a regular mom. When you do her, you got to talk out of the side of your mouth.
Yeah. I love you so much. I love you so much.
I love Drew Barrymore. Unregulated, but I love her.
Unregulated, but I love her. That one where she's outside dancing in the rain. And it's like, this is a wealthy woman who's never seen rain before. She's never experienced weather, and I love it.
It was a rainmaker that was above her
house. It was a rainmaker above her house. They're like, we should turn it on. No, she's great. I love her show. Okay, so out of all of this, what is the funniest lesson you learned?
Straight up. So I tend to get into it. Like if I'm a bit of a researcher, I want to know. I always pretend that I would have been a doctor if I liked school.
Same.
So like when I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out what's going on with my health, did a lot of stool tests. And I'm going to just tell you straight up, like tell the person you live with if you're doing a stool test. Okay, first off, there are just some things that we should not do at home. The doctor sent me home with, here's a stool sample, a stool kit. You're going to do it at home for 3 days. And there are things like, I don't want to necessarily do that at home because it's a commitment.
Anywhere.
I'm very like, I didn't want to, I was like, let me just do this thing. I'm going to hide it. I'm putting it in my room and I'm going to take it out. They give you these little paper trays that look like fast food containers. Have you done this?
Yes. No, I've not done this.
And one day I was like, I'm just going to leave them in the bathroom. And my husband was just like, are you a closet? Are you eating fast food? Are you closet? Like, he was like, what is this? And I was like, no. But I didn't know what was worse. Like, yes, I'm a closet in and out eater, or like, I'm doing a stool test. It's just gross. And then you got to find a place in your refrigerator for it. It's not cool. Oh, so that, I say, like, just tell the people, prepare the people you live with.
You're doing a stool test.
Yeah. Because he sat me down. He was like, it's okay that you eat fast food. I was like, no, it's not that.
I'm recording my poop. Do you feel, are you still on medication?
Yes. But it's been way weaned down.
Weaned down, yeah. Yeah. And how do you feel like 0 to 100%? Where do you feel?
Oh.
From where you were before.
100 being the best?
Yeah.
Like 70 usually.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like at the beginning, you were probably at what?
Like 30.
Yeah.
40, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say I'm at like 80, but I think I also feel like I've been sick for so long that I don't remember what it was like before.
Yeah, now I'm like, I think this is just like, did I get a good night's sleep?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome. I am obsessed that you're doing this.
Thank you. Yeah. Where can people follow you and listen to more of your voices? Because you're also on 2 national commercials right now, right?
I am.
Yeah.
I see my cheesy face. That way they were like, be broad. I was like, I can do that.
It's so good.
So you can follow me on Voices on Instagram. Voices by Carla. Pretty much there. Yeah. I don't do Twitter. I don't tweet.
No, nobody should do Twitter. That should be burned to the ground. That is the worst. I don't think I've read a positive thing on that feed in 10 years. I don't think so. Yeah.
Ouch.
No.
Yeah.
Ouch. Done.
Oh, my husband and I are doing stuff on his Jeff Bergman social, I think it is. Jeff Bergman something official.
Official, I think so, yeah.
We do.
And he's great. He's pretty consistent with it too.
Yeah.
And he also does the voice of...
he does the Looney Tunes. He does Bugs Bunny. He does a lot of the Looney Tunes. When you said Donald Trump, he was doing that for Stephen Colbert's Cartoon President.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So good.
So find us and listen in.
Yeah, you guys need to do more of those sex tapes with my favorite characters, please. Thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely.
I love you. Guys, if you enjoyed that episode as much as I did, don't forget to follow me on all of the socials at NicoleComedy.com and also wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much.